Find your perfect fit with a custom suit from Indochino. From timeless classics to bold statements, you can express your style exactly how you want. Get 10% off any purchase of $3.99 or more at INDOCHINO.com with code PODCAST.
The T-Biz Podcast delivers tea news that you need to know. A recap of the week's major headlines with commentary and cultural trends hosted by Dan Bolton. It is the voice of origin for tea professionals and enthusiasts worldwide.
Tea nourishes and inspires. It is an ancient plant-based medicine that simultaneously heals and energizes the body as it soothes the mind. Making fine tea is a blend of artistry and craftsmanship. The $200 billion tea trade is fundamentally local, yet exerts global influence, employing millions to enhance the well-being of all. Hello, everyone. Here are this week's headlines. Tea in a Flash. PG Tips introduces a 60-second brewing tea bag. Tea reforms are benefiting Kenya growers, and the rapid growth of tea subscription programs is slowing. More in a minute, but first, this important message.
What makes a perfect cup of Ceylon tea? The perfect cup is from the tea businesses that ensure the protection of all the children living within their tea estates. We salute Kailani Valley, Telawakili, Bogawanthalawa, Harana, and Eliptia tea estates. Support Save the Children, Sri Lanka.
PG Tips released a new 60-second fast-brewing tea bag this week. The brand, owned by Rotterdam-based Lipton Tea and Infusions, is racing to attract impatient tea drinkers. A consumer study commissioned by the company revealed that few UK tea drinkers brew tea for the recommended 3 to 5 minutes at breakfast. In fact, 85% remove their tea bags after less than a minute in the cup, with 45% brewing their English breakfast tea for less than 30 seconds. The company said it spent 2 years and $62 million finding the optimum particle size, then created a square biodegradable tea bag offering generous space for the tea to expand, and cartons that are fully recyclable and 33% more compact than the current packaging, with wrappers that are sustainably produced and plastic-free. Nigel Mellican, president of the European Specialty Tea Association, told BBC News, quote, "I could have done that for free, just jiggle or stir the regular bag in the mug at halves the brewing time," end quote. UK Tea Academy founder Jane Pettigrew told the London Times, quote, "I really abhor this kind of innovation. It is not progress, but a massive retrograde step backward in what tea should be," end quote. Like many others quoted by the British press, she pointed out that, quote, "The slow brewing of tea creates a magical few minutes in a busy, sometimes frantic day." Dr. Andy Stepley told BBC, quote, "So many people have tea in different ways that it's impossible to be too prescriptive as to the best way, because everybody has their own preferences." The Independent found the alleged affront less compelling. "The sound of noises going out of joint can be heard all over England," writes columnist Kathy Letty. PG Tips was formerly the top-selling UK brand in convenience and grocery, but in 2019 slipped to second place behind Twinings, which was later overtaken by Tetley, according to Nielsen Market Research. The innovative PG Tips brand, then owned by Brook Bond, dates back to the 1930s when it was marketed as pre-Gest digestive tea, thus the PG. In 1960, it was one of the first British teas to switch to bags. The descriptive tips refers to the fact that only the top 2 leaves and bud are used in making the blend, primarily sourced in mountainous regions of Kenya and Rwanda. PG Tips General Manager for the UK and Ireland, Liam McNamara, said British tea drinkers enjoy 5 billion cups of PG Tips each year. The people of the British Isles consume 100 million cups of tea daily, of which 97.5% are brewed in tea bags. Business Insight. Andrew Mays, Emeritus Professor of Chemistry at the University of East Anglia, offered this advice to listeners of the BBC. Opt for loose leaf, he said. Perhaps we need to alter our behavior to match the product of tea leaves rather than re-engineering the product to match our habits. End quote. Reforms enacted in 2020 are delivering bigger bonuses much more quickly for tea growers in Kenya. The Tea Act upended factory management at many Kenya Tea Development Agency factories following a change in how directors were elected. Since 2021, factory directors have been elected in a one-man, one-vote ballot. In previous years, votes by growers contributing the largest volume of raw leaf cast the majority vote. Smallholders who produced only a few hundred kilos were easily outvoted. The system enabled directors to win re-election by courting a few prominent growers. One example cited in a report in The Standard is tea factories located in Emente, Gitanya, and Igimbi. Emente paid a bonus of 51.1 shillings, which is about 47 cents per kilo, the best in Zone 7. Workers at the Michikuru factory in Teganya East earned 47.6 shillings, about 32 cents per kilo. In addition, managers repaid 100 million shillings in loans and invested 39 million shillings in new machinery, increasing processing capacity to 28,000 metric tons from 9,000 metric tons in 2020. 2 years ago, workers received only 21 shillings, about 19 cents per kilo, as their bonus. In the Rift Valley, rates were as low as 12 shillings, about 8 cents per kilo, according to grower James Catch, who told Farm Kenya, quote, "Before the reforms, we got paid poorly. A kilogram of green leaf brought 12 shillings. The money I was earning barely repaid my loans," end quote, he said. Growers are also getting better prices at auction and achieving greater consistency in quality. The double-digit growth rate of subscription programs, boosted by online retail and the onset of the pandemic, is slowing to high single digits, according to FactMR. The market research company projects a combined annual growth rate globally of 8.6% through 2033, reaching $531 million in sales. Revenue from tea subscription programs, typically for higher-end loose leaf and sachets, grew at an estimated 12.5% CAGR from 2018 through 2022, reaching sales of $208 million globally. The U.S. share of the market amounted to $80.4 million in 2022. The sales will rise to $205 million in the U.S. by 2033 at a growth rate averaging 7.4% per year. Tea subscription programs are also popular in the United Kingdom. In 2019, UK tea sales to approximately 100,000 subscribers were valued at $2.2 million and are expected to grow in absolute dollars by $14.4 million to $27.4 million by 2033. FactMR projects a 7.7% CAGR for the UK during the next decade. Convenience, variety, and cost-effectiveness drive sales. Monthly programs are the most popular. Those offering organic tea will experience faster growth rates, according to FactMR. Options to customize selections based on taste preferences are popular with customers who enjoy trying new teas and want to experiment with different flavors and varieties. You can purchase the full tea subscription market analysis at factmr.com. Aravinda Anantharaman in Bengaluru reports on tea auction prices.
India tea price report for sale 35, the week ending 2nd September 2023. Overall, the auction saw 18,712 tons of tea on offer for sale 35, with a sales volume of 69%, with BP grades being the top seller, followed by BOP, SM, and then dust and fannings. In North India, Kolkata saw good demand with major blenders active for CTC and dust, while Middle East and CIS countries were active for orthodox. Tata Consumer Products was active for Darjeeling, which raised prices marginally. And there were fewer outlots of orthodox, and a little over half of Darjeeling remain unsold. 30% of orthodox sold for under 200 rupees a kilo, while 46% of Darjeeling sold for under 300 rupees a kilo. Overall, this auction week continues to see lower prices compared with 2022 for the same sale week. In Guwahati, major blenders were active for both leaf and dust. Prices were similar to last week, while outlots were slightly higher this week. In the south, Kunur saw good demand with about 95% of dust grades, both CTC and orthodox, sold. And in leaf grades, orthodox did better than CTC. Cochin was closed last week because they were celebrating Festival Onam. In crop and weather, Assam is seeing spikes in temperature and seeing the highest recorded temperature for September in recent times, which is a cause of worry. Darjeeling and Duars are expected to see light rain this week, and the Nilgiris is expected to see isolated heavy rain.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hello, I'm Bogdan, a passionate tea drinker and the inventor of the ultimate tea machine, the BrewMaker 1. Preparation is key to making fine tea. Sequential steepings deliver the best taste possible and unlock the true value of whole leaf teas and botanicals. Brew automates that process without using any pots or capsules. This simple-to-operate, smartphone-controlled device stores steeping profiles to consistently make great tea at the push of a button. Brew also reduces time, waste, and energy. That's because I engineered the brew to remember control settings for temperature, brewing time, and quantity. Using my patented process lets you stack steep simply and conveniently.
The United Nations FAO Intergovernmental Group on Tea is a forum for consultation and exchange that has provided exceptional market insights and guidance since 1969 for one of the most important cash crops in the world. Members include all the major tea-producing countries. India is hosting the 25th gathering in November in Assam. Aravinda Anantharaman discusses the IGG mission with Joydeep Phukan, Secretary and Principal Officer of India's Tea Research Association.
India will host the next session of the FAO Intergovernmental Group on Tea in November in Guwahati, Assam. We speak with Joydeep Phukan, Secretary and Principal Officer of the Tea Research Association India, who's been given the responsibility to organize and manage the event, the Tea Board of India. Here, Joydeep talks about the FAO IGG, the focus areas, what they've achieved in the past through it, and what he looks forward to at this upcoming event. Thanks for joining us at TBIZ, Joydeep. It's really nice to talk to you and hear more about the FAO event, the conference in November in Guwahati. So, but before that, can you just, what is the Intergovernmental Group on Tea and how, what does the group do? And you just introduce their work.
Thank you very much for having this interview. Internationally, so in the 1980s, I think there was an idea voted by the FAO to bring the tea producing and the consuming countries under one platform. And they formed this Intergovernmental Group on Tea to discuss various issues relating to production trends, how the whole industry is expanding, then the the consumption patterns in the producing in the consuming countries, and even in the initial days, how to promote the consumption through generic promotion and different kinds of approaches. So initially, there were about 2 to 3 working groups which were formed under the FAO Intergovernmental Group. One was basically on tea harmonization of MRLs. Like you see, different countries had got different MRLs. So the harmonization of MRLs was one of the area where which was a working group was formed, so that maybe if they could try to bring in some kind of consensus among the tea producing and the consuming countries. That was one. Second was basically on, during that time, different countries have different norms on the standards of tea, the physical parameters of tea. The ISO 3720 was the standard, which was basically followed by all tea producing countries as a benchmark. For India, the ISO 3720 more or less mirrored the PFA parameters, the PFA prior to the FSSI, which was there. Like you see, for India, it was not a problem for major tea producing countries, but there were countries which did not follow the ISO 3720 parameters. So through the working group, it was basically tried that like more and more countries come on board and sign the ISO 3720 parameters in trying to have a uniform physical parameters like ash content, crude fiber content, and then like those are the different parameters which are there under the 3720 this thing. So that was on the physical parameter. In the initial years, if you see the FAO Intergovernmental Group was held, especially in the 80s and the 90s, at Rome only. Once in 2 years, they used to have the meetings in Rome, and then most of the producing and the consuming countries would go and participate. I think in 97 or 98, it was suggested that instead of meeting at one place, if the whole meeting could be rotated among the member countries. I think the first meeting was held in Ottawa, Canada. And then from there, it moved on, actually. Like, see, now it has become more of a sought after thing to host the FAO Intergovernmental Group on Tea meetings, this thing. So both majorly it is the producing countries which host the sessions, but in between, like the intersessions are hosted by the consuming countries also. So like US as a consuming country has hosted, Canada of course has hosted earlier. Then last time, in fact, the intersession was hosted by Russia in Sochi. That was in 2019. So basically, now between the producer and the consuming countries, the meetings rotate. As of now, we have got 7 working groups and 1 task force under the FAO IGG on tea. So which are working on different aspects of the tea industry. Actually, there is a working group on MRL. There is a working group on then there is a working group on climate change on tea. Then there is a working group on organic tea cultivation. The working group on ISO 3720, tea quality and tea quality, that still stands. There is a working group on tea and health, which was formed in the last session, actually. So that's a new working group which has come in, actually. I forget the 7th one. And there is a task force on statistics, tea statistics. So the FAO basically generates a lot of information through collating data from all the consuming and producing countries. So the task force generally have statisticians of most of the producing countries, and the consuming countries, they get the data from the government and various market, like the agencies which collect the data.
A rich minefield of data, right, to have and to draw insights from. And so does that happen too? What would you say is the impact of the meetings and the work that's done by the task force?
Pre-pandemic, between the sessions, main sessions, there used to be. But now what has happened post-pandemic or during the pandemic, all the groups have become, now they have gone online and they are having virtual meetings. And they are trying to assess and try to take forward all the agenda items which were earlier, whenever they used to meet, they used to discuss. So, for instance, the working group on tea and health, which is chaired by US and China. So, Shabnam Weber, she's the main coordinator. So, we have had at least in the last 1.5 years, more than 10 meetings, mostly online meetings. They are trying to collate peer-reviewed journals to find out a topic which can be easily used for promoting tea. So, like one is sports, endurance, stamina, and then basically beauty, the skin health, and all. How tea enhances endurance, then stamina. These are the topics which gel well with the new generation actually. So we have, I think, collated more than 10 to 15 papers. The working group had given the responsibility to India as well as China, and we got some of our scientists who gone through entirely all the papers which were published. So the FAO secretariat is also involved. The FAO, the health aspects which is seen by the FAO secretariat, they also got involved in this whole thing. For instance, for the small tea holders, like small tea growers, Indonesia is the chair for the small tea holders working group. So they have moved ahead, like see, that is a working group which has moved ahead, and then they have formed another body called CITS, Confederation of International Tea Smallholders. So it is under the FAO aegis that group has been formed, and it is temporarily first headquartered in China. So China has taken the responsibility to take forward the CITS agenda. And basically, it's training, awareness, trying to have fair price for the small tea holders. So these are the kind of things which they are trying to do actually. Then on organic working group. So what they have done is that like they have given the responsibility to India to collate the best practices for organic tea cultivation in all the tea growing countries. Initially, it was 4 countries, India, Sri Lanka, China, Japan. But it was a project mode. But since the pandemic had come in, whole thing was expanded to about 10, 11 countries. So now we have got data from 11 countries, their best practices, what they have done on organic tea cultivation, then the success stories in their country, and how to take things forward, and the handicaps also, the problems which they face in promoting organic tea cultivation, and the marketing of the difficulties in marketing and the success stories, everything is covered. So that the book will be released in the next session actually. So that was supposed to be released earlier, but like now it's going to be released in the next session in Guwahati actually.
What happens to all these ideas and insights and all of that then to all the participating countries? And use them in some way? How do you see it through?
There is a lot of exchange of ideas which is happening actually. So best practices. Similarly, for climate change, in 2016, the working group published a report on the effects of climate change on tea plantation and the mitigation which one can take. So in that report, it was a collaborative effort of 4 countries. So those things have been taken up: creation of water bodies, creation of microclimate in an area, then all those things were listed in that working group report. It was not only India's responsibility, but it was it was taken from China, it was taken from Sri Lanka. The whole knowledge was global, but the applicability was localized actually.
The conference is coming to India after 2010, isn't it?
After 2010.
And what does it mean, given that it's also Assam's 200th year, and to have it in Guwahati? What does it mean for the Indian tea industry to host the event?
The tea board has given me the responsibility to coordinate the FAO matters for India. So like coordinating with different countries, and in fact, the organizational the organizing the responsibility for organizing the session also has been given to TRA actually. So we are doing together with Tea Board and so in organizing it in Guwahati actually. Initially, it was thought to be part of the G20 event actually. The time was really short to have it in April actually. So it was decided to shift it to November. The proposal to have it in Assam was from the Minister of Commerce, Mr. Piyush Goyal. He suggested that like since Assam is celebrating 200 years, so it should be held in Assam. The significant part is that like you see all the major stakeholders and the main people who are involved for tea in each country, like and who matter in those countries. So those participate in this the FAO intergovernmental group. Government representatives, they are vetted by their respective governments. So in that way, it holds much weight, because normally what happens, like you see, so they go back and then they inform the governments, and then like there's a policy thing, movement also one can initiate. In fact, one area like where we have done quite a lot of work through this platform is the International Tea Day actually. See, because it was proposed by India in 2015. We had moved the proposal through the Agriculture Ministry is the main nodal ministry for FAO in India. So the Agriculture Ministry moved it through the Indian representative in FAO. But the real work starts after the proposal is given, how it is moved and getting support of different countries and all. So we liaise with China, liaise with Indonesia, Sri Lanka, got letters, and so these were very, very crucial things to get to push the whole concept of International Tea Day. Initially, the FAO Council passed it, and then finally the UN Assembly. So I think one of the biggest achievement, what I would feel is that, like say, having a tea, like International Day for Tea, through the FAO platform. So it was mooted, conceptualized, and then like it was finally it saw the light of the day. Every country has got their own requirements, but like it takes time to move things. But like generally, at least it's a good platform to discuss and push things. Now, what happened like last year, like they have done a study like how lower production or the production, if it's there's a cut in production, or maybe how the prices appreciate. So that also, I think the FAO is studying quite a lot actually. Failures also, it's not that everything is all a success story, because like I still remember in 2008, in the Beijing session of the IGG, it was more or less unanimously decided, except in China, like all countries decided to restrict their production, tea production, at 2008 levels actually. So they'll not expand area of tea. But later on, nobody, like, it could not be like there were changes in governments in different countries and all, and then like say, for instance, Kenya has more or less doubled its production. Actually. If you see in 2010, Kenya was about 320 million. Now they are almost reaching 600 million. So there are each country would see its own benefit actually. I think this session mostly like the major emphasis, what I feel would be on the smallholders, because the FAO I think they're trying to focus on how the smallholder produce can be integrated into the international supply chain actually. So the idea of FAO is that like see they will try to see that how the smallholders can be integrated in the international supply chain. So that's one of the major focus area which I think this session would have. Second is, and that would definitely gel well with India, because India smallholders producing more than 50% now. And second is basically on climate issues actually, because with so much of changes happening, and like, so there needs to, of course, there's a report, there's a lot of things have been done, but like, again, like, to revisit on what can be done actually, because tea being more of an agriculture-based industry. Third is, I think the FAO, the Tea and Health Group, I think they are going to pitch in for maybe kind of a some kind of like, at least on 2 or 3 areas, how they can promote tea as a among the young people, actually, younger population, to increase demand. So that, I think, would be a focus area. And I had suggested to the Secretariat, FAO Secretariat, that like maybe there's a lot of new technologies which are coming in. So it is not only India, but like every country would be having their bright spots which are there. So maybe if we can have a group, or maybe a working group, or maybe some kind of a study can be made, taking the best of all countries actually. So that is also a thought process which the FAO might bring up actually.
Intrigued by what you heard in today's podcast? Would you like to learn more from our global network of Tea-Biz journalists and tea experts? Remember to visit the Tea-Biz website for more comprehensive coverage. That's www.t-biz.com. Thanks for listening. Farewell till next week.
Introducing Allbirds' new Wool Runner 2, redesigned to redefine comfort. Extra cushioning offers a plush ride, and premium materials deliver a cozy fit. Go to allbirds.com and use code FRESH24 for a free pair of socks with purchase today.
Produced by Audavita Studios. Connect your voice to the world.